begin.
Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Stella. Alright, and if you're just coming across my channel, you're highly welcome. Kindly subscribe to my channel. Okay, so let's jump right into what we have. Now we're going to be making this lovely gown, okay, or a dress. And here are the materials that we will need. So here's the Ankara fabric, and it's called a batik. Alright, and I have 5 yards of the batik fabric. Okay, so we'll move over to the lining. The lining here is 3.5 yards. Alright, and we'll be making use of this stone zip, and of course my favorite, the bra cups. Okay, and I will be interfacing both the fashion fabric and the lining. Alright, so let's move over to the half scale block. So I went ahead to draft a half scale basic bodice block, and I altered it to an armhole princess dart. So I have a detailed video on how to do this. Now the style we're working with is a turtleneck. So I have my 3x3 neckline here. Okay, so we have 3x3 for the front and 3x1 for the back. Now I'll proceed to separate the two patterns so that we can begin our full alteration on the front block. Alright, so let's focus on the front. Now I'll go ahead and cut up to the bust point line so that we can close the bust dart. Okay, so just cut your dart in the middle and go ahead and raise your bust dart along that marked line, okay, just like I'm doing, and you rest it on the bust point line. Okay, it's that simple. Now I'll come in with my paper tape and I'm going to permanently close this line. All right, now we need to reshape the bust point. Okay, now I get a lot of questions. Why is it that sometimes you don't reshape the bust point and sometimes you do? The reason is that if the bust point area looks a bit pointed, I don't want it, so I blend it. Now we need to go ahead and connect the side front. Okay, so here we have it, and I'll proceed to cut this out. All right, now this neckline I further altered it. Okay, so I reduced the neck width to 2.5. okay, so what I have is neck depth of 3 for the front and neck width of 2.5. all right, and for the back is neck depth of 1.5 and neck width of 2.5. so these are the alterations I further made to this pattern. Now I'll proceed to label this, and labeling is very key. Okay, so here's the side front and the center front. So we're done with the front, and we'll move over to the back. So I will proceed to cut out this pattern. Kindly subscribe to my channel if you have not, and hit on the notification bell so you get notified each time I upload a new video. Okay, and like this video because it helps more people to see it. Now this is what we have for the back, and I'll proceed to blend the back. The reason for the blending is so that when you're done joining, the back area will not look puffy. Okay, so you need to blend it as much as possible. Now pay attention to the way I'm doing it. I simply used a straight line, okay, to try and connect the curvy area, and I'll cut that off. It's that simple. Okay, this is it. I have blended the back. All right, so I'll come in with all our patterns. Okay, so here's the front and the back. Now let's move over to the skirt. All right, so here's the skirt. I went ahead to draft her basic long skirt. Okay, so remember that this is a dress. Okay, so the skirt, I subtracted the half length from the total length, and the remaining is the skirt. So this is a full long skirt. Now from her waist to her hip is 9 inches, to her knee is 18. But if you take a look at the style, you will see that that the flare or the gather started above her knee. So from 18 inches, I still went up further by 1.5. So I have from her waist to her knee to be 16.5 inches. Okay, now let's proceed to label. So this is the back. Okay, here's the side back and the center back. All right, and here's the center front and the side front. Okay, so these are the only alterations I did. All right, now if you take a look at the back, you will see that it has a little bit of curve. The back is not straight. Where the gather started is not straight. Okay, so we'll go ahead and form a little curve, all right, on the back. Now the front is straight. Okay, and the back, I went up from our new knee length by 2 inches. All right, remember I told us that from her waist to her knee is 18 and I came up by 1.5. okay, so we have 16.5, and from that 16.5 I still came up by 2 inches. Okay, so I'll use my curve ruler to just make a slight curve. All right, and here we have it. So this is the shape that we have on the back. All right, and I'll proceed to cut this out. Okay, so this is it. I have cut out the front and the back skirt block. All right, now I'll proceed to cut out our new line. Okay, so this is what we have now. All right, now I'll come in with all our patterns. Okay, so this is it for the lower part. All right, now so you can see the side front and the side back. All right, now we need to label it again because right now they are looking a bit alike, so we need to label. So here's the front and the back. Okay, so I'll proceed to tape it together. Now we need to join them, okay, together, so that much later we will proceed with our slash and spread. All right, so here it is. I have joined the side front and the side back together. Okay, I also went ahead to draw a straight line there indicating the joining point. Now this point is very important when it's time for us to transfer to the fabric. Okay, now let's proceed to measure. So we're measuring from the center front to the side front. All right, so I'll proceed to measure this, and what I have there is 9.25. now this pattern is supposed to be on fold. Okay, so to get the entire front, I'll simply do 9.25 times 2. Okay, and that will give us 18.5 inches. All right, and this is for the front. Now let's measure the back. Remember, from the side back to the center back, and I have 9.75 inches there. All right, and to get the entire back, we'll do 9.75 multiplied by 2. All right, and that will give us 19.5 inches. Now to get the gathers, you will simply multiply each of them by 3. So I'll multiply the front 18.5 inches by 3, and that will give us 55.5. And I'll multiply the back 19.5 inches by 3, and that will give us 58.5 inches. So this is the extent of the fabric that we'll be gathering. All right, so I'll go ahead and draw my slash lines. All right, so what I did is I simply measured the entire pattern, okay, and I divided it. So I'm simply just connecting the lines, and the spaces are 2 inches. All right, now I'll go ahead and number the spaces. So I'm numbering them from 1 to 10. So now there's what is called balance mark. So a balance mark is simply a line that you draw across your pattern to help you assemble them when it's time. All right, because without this balance mark, your pattern may obviously not be equal or on the same line. So I'll go ahead and use a straight line to connect my balance mark. So balance mark is nothing too major. It's just a line that will help you assemble your patterns together. All right, so I'm using a horizontal line to connect from the center front to the center back. Okay, now I would like to draw 3 lines. All right, so I'll go ahead and draw the second balance mark. Okay, so like I explained earlier, it's just a vertical line or a horizontal line, whatever that will help you to assemble your patterns back, okay, when it's time. So I'll go ahead and draw the third balance mark. All right, and remember I said I'm drawing from the center front to the side front, and here we have it. So we have 3 balance marks here. Okay, now I'll come in with all the patterns. So here's the skirt pattern, all right, and here's the half length pattern. Okay, so I will go ahead now and I'll alter the neckline like I explained. Okay, so the neck depth for the front will be 3 inches and the neck width for the front will be 2.5 inches. I'll do the same thing on the back. Okay, so the back neck depth will be 1.5 and the width will be 2.5. All right, so I'll transfer all this to the fabric. Okay, and here we have it. I have transferred all our patterns to fabric. Now here's the center front and the side front. All right, and I also reduced the neckline, okay, like I explained. So I cut out the fashion fabric and the lining, and I have gone ahead to iron down my interfacing on all of them. Okay, Now if you look closely, you will see my joining lines. I like to mark my joining lines. Okay, now here's our back. So here's the lining and the fashion fabric of the center back, okay, and the side back as well. Now I went ahead to mark my 1-inch zip allowance on the center back. All right, so I'll proceed to join this. I'll join the side front to the center front of the back. I'll repeat the same thing on the lining, and I'll also join the front. Okay, now let's look at the skirt. So here's the skirt fabric. Now this is the back. So I went ahead to mark my dart. All right, and I marked my 1-inch zip allowance. So for the joining, I'll use a loose stitch from the waist to the hip length, and from the hip length I'll use a tight stitch to the hem of the skirt. I'll repeat the same thing on the lining, okay, because I'll be holding my darts on the lining. So I'll repeat the same thing on the lining, and I'll give it a good press. All right, and here we have it. I have joined them. Okay, so this is the half length. I have it joined and pressed. So I have emphasis on the pressing. All right, so here's the center back. Okay, I have it joined and pressed. Now let's look at each of them one by one. Okay, so here's the back fashion fabric. Okay, so you can see I held the darts. All right, now let's move over to the joining process. So we're starting with the front. Now I'll proceed to join the half length to the front fabric. Okay, so I'll join them on the waistline using 1/2 inch. All right, now let's look at the back. So here's our back. All right, and I pressed it thoroughly. Now I'll go ahead and open up the zip allowance just a little. I'll open up the zip allowance on the skirt just a little. Okay, so I'll open this up, and this is because we will need to join them on the waistline. All right, so I'll proceed to join them on the waist length using 1/2 inch. Okay, the 1/2 inch allowance that I added when I was drafting my pattern. So I'll join them. I'll repeat the same thing on the lining. All right, so let me take us through the lining joining process. So here's the lining, and of course I have attached my bra cup. Now I have a detailed video on how to attach bra cup, and I'll leave the link in the description box. Okay, so the joining process is the same. I'll proceed to join the top part to the lower part of the front on the waist length. I'll do the same thing on the back. So for the back, I'll go ahead and open up the zip allowance a little as well. Okay, you can open it fully, but I still want it a bit together until it's time for me to fix the zip. All right, so I'll join them on the waist using 1/2 inch. Okay, and here we have it. I have joined them. All right, and I pressed it open. Okay, so I also joined the back and I fixed my zip. All right, you can see all the stitch lines are wide open. Okay, now you may want to notch your waistline after you have joined, just to ease that area, because you don't want any form of squeeze. Now I have also marked my shaping on both the fashion fabric and the lining. Okay, so you can see the lining, I have joined it on the waistline and I have pressed it open. Okay, I gave it tiny notches as well. Now we'll proceed to join them. All right, so to join, I will place them right sides facing each other. All right, and I'll go ahead and just join them on the sides. Now, like I said, I have the shapings already done, and I have a detailed video on how to do shaping. Okay, now let's move over to the lower part, which is my favorite part. All right, so you remember our pattern, okay, that we have drawn our slash lines. All right, now for the front, we got 9.25, multiplied it by 2, we got 18.5, and we multiplied it by 3, okay, to get the extent of our gathers, and we got 55.5. Now for the back, we multiplied it by 2 and we got 19.5, multiplied it by 3 and we got 58.5. okay, for the back. Now here is my fabric. Okay, so my table is not that long. All right, now we're going to divide each of them by 2, okay, because the fabric is on fold. So for the front, we got 55.5 divided by 2 will give us 27. All right, so 27 is what we have for the front, which is on fold. Okay, Now, this is because my fabric is on fold. So if the fabric is not on fold, I'll go ahead and just measure the entire 55.5. All right. Now, for the back, I'll go ahead and divide 58.5 by 2. And that will give me 29.25. Okay. So this is the unfold figure for the back. All right. So if you add these two together, it will give us 56.25. All right. So I have my fabric folded. All right, and what I have is 56.25, which is the addition of the front gathers and the back gathers. I hope this is clear. All right, so we multiplied. Let me just go over it a little. So we measured from the center front to the side front, and we added and we multiplied it by 2. Okay, we went ahead to multiply the figure by 3 so that we will know the extent of the gathers, and we did the same thing on the back. Now, because the fabric is on fold, I went ahead to divide each of the figures by 2, and that's it. So I'll proceed to cut through all our slash lines. All right, so here we have it. I have cut them. You remember our numbering. This will guide us when it's time to spread. Okay, so we'll start with the front. Now, from the little calculation that we just did, the spreading for the front is going to be take the space of 27 inches. Okay, you remember. All right, so let's start with the front. Okay, so here's the side joining. All right, so this is the joining line for the side front and the center front. You remember how we marked it. Okay, so we'll start our spreading from the front, and the very first pattern that we are going to pin down is the center front. Okay, now the side I'm pinning it is the side that is on fold, so I'll go ahead and pin down the center front. All right, and afterwards we will do a little bit of calculation to know the extent of our spreading for the remaining patterns. Okay, so this is what we have left. Now I'll go ahead and measure the space that we have left. So I'm measuring after the center front piece that I just pinned down to the side front line of 27 inches. Okay, all right, and what I have there is 25 inches. Now I'll proceed to arrange the patterns that we have on the front. Okay, so remember that we have only pinned down the center front, so I'll arrange the remaining up to the side front. And what I have, the width is 7 inches. So I'll go ahead and subtract 7 inches from the space that we have. Okay, the space is 25 inches. So 25 minus 7 will give us 18 inches. All right, now to know the extent of the spreading, we'll go ahead and divide 18 by the number of patterns that we have, and we have 4 patterns left. So 18 divided by 4 will give us 4.5. So what that means is that after each pattern, I will measure 4.5 and pin down the next pattern. Okay, so I'll proceed to measure 4.5 inches. Okay, and I will pin down number 2. All right, so you need to measure it at the top as well because you need to spread evenly. Now I'll measure 4.5 inches again, and I'll pin down number 3. All right, so I'll pin down number 3 at the hem. I'll also ensure that it's the same thing at the top part. Now I'll repeat the same thing again. I'll measure 4.5 inches. All right, and I'll pin down number 4. So I'll measure it both at the hem and at the top part because I'm spreading them evenly. Now I'll pin down number 4. All right, I'll go ahead and measure 4.5 inches. Okay, which is automatic, which already we have the space there. Okay, so I will just pin the side front on that line that we have marked there. Okay, and this is it. I have spread the front evenly. Now I'll repeat the same thing on the back. All right, so I'll repeat the same thing. I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and measure everything I have, subtract it from the space, divide it by the number of patterns I have. The same process that we did in the front is what I'll do on the back. And here we have it. I have spread the front and the back evenly. All right, now we'll proceed to take a look at our balance mark. All right, you remember I told us that it will help you to assemble your patterns together. Now I'll come in with my straight line again. Now can you see that the lines are running through? Okay, none of the lines is a bit up, okay, or lower. The lines are on the same length. Okay, so the lines are on the same length. So that's the essence of the balance mark. All right, now I'll proceed to cut out this pattern. But before I do that, I'll go ahead and blend the top part. Okay, so I will use a slightly curved line, okay, to connect all the pattern papers at the top. Now I'm not adding any sewing allowance again because I already added 2 inches to the pattern when I was drafting. All right, now out of these 2 inches, I will use 1/2 inch to join the gathers to the skirt, okay, and I will use 1.5 inches to hem it. Okay, so that's why I'm not adding any other allowance here, but I added 1/2 inch to the side for joining. Okay, I have 1/2 inch added to the center back for joining. All right, so I'll proceed to cut this out. All right, so I'm starting my cutting from the center back, and I'll go ahead and just cut everything out. Now, if you have watched up to this point, kindly hit on the like button and subscribe to my channel if you have not. And I guarantee you're not going to regret making that decision. All right, now we will need to notch the side front line, okay, which I have done. Okay, so I'll go ahead and run 2 straight lines here at the top. Okay, and I'll go ahead and gather it. Now this is it. I have gathered it. Okay, I've gathered it. All right, you can see now you need to spread your gathers equally. Okay, you don't want it clustered at one point. Now you remember the notch, so I have it there indicated as well. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and join the center back, okay, because that's the opening. I'll join it using 1/2 inch. All right, and I'll come in with the gown. Now here is the gown. I have joined the sides, okay, and here is the lining. I have it joined as well. All right, now I'll proceed to so after I'm done joining the center back on 1/2 inch, I'll go ahead and just join the gathers at the lower part of the gown. All right, now I'll cut a 180 degrees flare for the lining. All right, and the length will be shorter by 7 inches. Okay, so that will be it.
Yeah.
And here we have it. I have attached the gathers to the gown. Okay, you can see the back. This dress is lovely. Lovely is an understatement. All right, now so I went ahead to cut out this piece of fabric. Now the width is 2 inches, so I just hemmed it and I ran a straight line in the middle. Afterwards I gathered it, so I'll go ahead and just stitch it at the joining part. Okay, and here we have it. I have attached the ruffles. Okay, so I have it stitched down at that joining line. Okay, so you can see it on the back as well. Now let's see the inside. Okay, so I've used the lining to turn the zip. All right, so for the neckline, I have a detailed video already on how to cut a perfect fit bishop collar. Okay, so I'll leave the link in the description box so that you can see it. Okay, and here we have it. I have attached the neckline and the fitting is it's resting perfectly on the neck. Okay, it's not puffy, it's not tight. Okay, and remember the neckline for the front, the neck depth for the front is 3 inches. Okay, and the width is 2.5. all right, and the back, the neck depth for the back is 1.5, and the width is 2.5 inches as well. Now the stitches are just at the very bottom of the collar. Okay, now let's look at the sleeve. So I simply cut out a long piece of fabric and I pleated it, then I attached it. So the width is 5 inches. Now to know the extent of the fabric, I measured the armhole and I multiplied it by 3. Okay, now I cut out this long piece of fabric. Okay, and the width is 5 inches. All right, so we're going to be using 1/2 inch to join and we'll be left with 4.5 inches. So for the joining, I'll go ahead and turn them right sides facing each other and I'll use 1/2 inch to join it. Afterwards, I will turn it, pleat it, okay, and attach it to the sleeve. All right, and here we have it. We are done with this lovely dress. I have a few things that stood out for me. One is the neckline. You have to look very closely to see that it's not a cut together built up neckline. The neckline is lovely. It's very comfortable. It's not too tight on the neck, okay? And you can see the beauty of the bra cup. The bra cup stood this dress out, okay? The waistline is not even visible. You have to look well. In fact, they have to bring the clothes physically to you for you to see the neckline. All right, you can see how the ruffles stepped up the dress. Okay, the hip line, the sleeves, everything about this dress is speaking perfection. Okay, luxury. All right, so this is me just gushing over the handwork of God. Okay, and I must put it out there, most times it's not really about how good you are, but how much God is helping you. Okay, and this is just the pure handwork, pure help of God, and nothing more. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Kindly subscribe to my channel. All right, now let me talk a little bit on the back. So you can see that our slight curve on the back, you see the way it stood out, just like the picture that we are working with. Okay, so I'm so glad that we got this. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.